Alright guys, so today I'm going to be talking about client acquisition. Now, sorry if I have a bad audio quality, but um, we're just going to make do with what we have. So anyways, let's get right into this. So first of all, the first thing you have to understand is the niche, okay? So, there's a lot of steps, right? Niche, model, solution, offer, so on and so forth. The first thing is to create, is to choose your niche. And they're facing a painful problem. They can afford at least $1,000. Now, I would say, honestly, more than that. Probably 2 to 3K would be better. 30K potential, 30 at least 30,000 potential clients. You have interest in it and you have the skills to deliver your service, and the market is growing in size. Okay, so that's the things that you need. Now, the model is to sell proximity and to use school and WhatsApp as your infrastructures, and to maybe use upsells and downsells. I'll talk more about it later. So next up is that your solution has to solve painful problem, have a high rate of success, deliver that result as fast as you can, and with the least amount of effort and sacrifice. And your offer is DFY if possible, or done with you, or both. And it is simple and easy to implement and learn. Now, usually most people gloss through this extremely quickly, and they go right into traffic appointments, conversions, and so forth. But I want to go through exactly the things you need to understand before ever doing any running systems, because you have to understand how your offer and niche and all these things, how they work. So one of the most important aspects is the niche and the way that your offer is created. So before you make an offer, obviously you have to select a niche. Okay, the question, there's two types of questions you should ask yourself when you're selecting a niche, and these are necessary conditions and optional conditions. Now, every necessary condition has to be satisfied, and every optional condition, most of them should be satisfied. Okay, so in terms of necessary conditions, you have to ask yourself, do they need what I sell? Does the market need what my niche sells? Does the market have at least 30,000 people? Because if they don't, you're going to have a hard time. Is the market growing, right? If it's shrinking, you're going to be fighting an uphill battle. And can this niche afford high ticket prices? Because if they're poor, you're going to be poor as well. All right. So next up are the optional conditions. So do you enjoy working with it? You're going to spend thousands of hours in it, so you may as well, right? Would you be able to compete with other businesses in 6 months, right? So I'm talking about industry giants. Are there other successful businesses in this niche? So if there is, it proves that, what you do actually could work, right? If there's not a lot, then it kind of is, it's like you're reinventing the wheel and you're going to have a really hard time. Can people in this niche be easily found and contacted, right? Easier it is to find, easier it is to get clients. Does this niche have high or low operational drag multiplier? I'll talk about this later. Are there gatekeepers preventing you from reaching the prospects? So in certain niches, that would be a yes. Do they use social media? It would help if they did. Do you speak the language? So their lingo, right? Do you speak their lingo? And if you don't, can you learn it quickly? No. Now, after this, after you answer these questions and you answered yes, right? Now you know the niche. There is something you have to understand called specialist domination. Now, basically, it is that in our world, specialists would always outperform people who do general things, because people would much rather have one problem solved completely than 10 problems solved partially. In nature, every animal, has their own function. In every ecosystem, everything has their own function, and in the same way, in the market, you should have a unique function, right? I'm not going to overcomplicate it, but that's the vision behind it. So by choosing a more niche, so I said niche, but by choosing a narrower niche, you can more easily become the expert, and it allows you to charge much more higher ticket in certain situations. Now, I was talking about operational drag multipliers, and you might ask, okay, what is it, Lucas? And simply, it is complexity, okay? One of the worst things you can experience is to do overwhelming amounts of work, right? Amounts of work that one person simply can't do, right? And you have to spend loads of money hiring people, getting setters, not getting setters and closers because that's normal, but getting a bunch of employees for operations that you could avoid. So you want to minimize it, obviously, right? So what you want to do is, for example, if you have one offer, you have one CTA, one funnel, one website, one Calendly event, one contract, so on and so forth, right? And the complexity it's a small number, so it will be low, right? But if you have two offers, right? If you have like an upsell, you're gonna have more CTAs, funnels, Calendly links, everything, right? And overall, it will just become a lot more complex, right? That's why things like Go High Level are so good because, when you use things like Go High Level, operations become a lot more simpler instead of using like 20, 200,000 tools, right? The whole thing is to decrease your operational drag multiplier, right? And don't make it too hard of yourself, basically. Okay? But now that you fix your operational drag multiplier, there is a concept that you have to understand. Now, people talk about this concept, but people don't really talk about it well. And the reason is because they know jack shit about it, okay? So, there's something called the gap, okay? It's basically the gap between where your prospect is now and where they want to be. Now, this could mean having and not having a girlfriend, 0 a month and 10K a month, depression and not depression, right? And this gap, this difference creates pain, right? Now, there are certain types of pain that it creates, such as, problems, right? um, things in the way of attaining what they want. Think of it as obstacles. Unmet unconscious needs, right? If I don't have a girlfriend, then I might subconsciously think that I'm lacking love, or if I don't have money, I think I lack status. Right? Fear of current situation, right? The pain that their current situation causes them, right? For example, if you're single, it's apparently a very big thing to look at Instagram reels and get really depressed every time you see a couple. Now, that is pretty freaking depressing, you know. And it's to like this non-stop pain, right? That is the pain, the fear, that the pain from your current situation, and you build a fear for it. Next, after that is FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. Missing out on opportunities because of not being where you want to be. Fear of missing out on a dating life. Fear of missing out your youth, maybe. Fear of missing out living a life. Fear of being poor. Fear of like missing out all the opportunities that you can have for being rich, so on and so forth, right? And consequences. So direct consequences, right? For example, if you have a smoking addiction, consequences could mean cancer, right? That's just an example. Now, next up, you can use these things to your advantage, all right? And here are also things that, here are tools that you can use to gain trust from them. So to get them to trust you. First of all is your confidence, okay? And I'm talking more specifically on a sales call, right? Because having this confidence, this certainty to your prospect, they can see it, and it can infect them with the same energy, right? Infect them with your mindset, basically, right? You could also use client results, okay? So my friend succeeded in this. My client did 20K, and you can do it too, basically. When they see that other people can succeed, they think that I can succeed as well, right? It builds way more trust in you. Now, finally, there is offer. Okay, an offer is also extremely important. It's about what you promise them. I promise you, I'm going to get you 10K a month, right? I promise you, you know, I'm going to get you 3 dates in the next month, right? And all these things. And, the promise combined with the other things, you're confident in clients' results, can, get them, to trust you way more. Okay. Now that you've heard all these things, it's, it's time to formulate the actual offer. Now, there's a lot of questions you have to ask yourself. It might seem excessive, and I understand if it does, but it is necessary, okay? So, first of all, you have to ask questions regarding the niche. So, what niche you're in, what problem you're aiming to solve, what are the goals, of the people facing this problem, what are the consequences if they don't solve it, what if they tried, where are they right now, and where will they be? It seems like a lot, as I said, but it is needed, trust me. Now, what is the bold claim that you will make, right? Will I make you 10K a month? Will I get you 3 dates in the next month? And so on and so forth, right? How do you make this tangible? Right? How many girls am I going to text? How many DMs am I going to send? How much? What's my return on ad spend? So on and so forth, right? Just example. Now, where will your prospects be after this problem is solved? So, will they have a girlfriend? Will they be at 15K a month? Will they reach, 6 figures? Right? How does this outcome move them closer to their desired situation? So, for example, if they want to retire their parents, right? Getting them to 10K a month gets it a lot closer because financially it becomes something much more feasible for them. And what will be their next desired situation after it's achieved? So, for example, they got to 10K a month, they achieved it. Now, maybe they want to, give back to the community, right? And maybe that is something you can help them with as well. Next up, time framing. So, what is a realistic time frame for you to achieve this? Are you going to do it in 60 days, 90 days, 30 days, 120 days, half a year maybe? And how can you make this shorter? Because the shorter it is, the faster it is, the better it is. And the faster it is, people would much rather get the result instantly than to get it, after 6 months, obviously. Now, then you have to ask yourself about methodology, right? What are the core components of your product? And, this could be, inbound systems, right? 200 emails a day. That's an outbound system. Inbound system, you might make 5 clips of them every day. You might edit the videos, so on and so forth. How does this not do that? How does this help achieve that outcome? So help achieve that outcome. So maybe the emails, right? With the right KPIs, it could generate sales. Same goes for content, right? Can you remove any unimportant items while still achieving the outcome? Maybe you don't need like a CRM workflow, right? Maybe it's just not necessary because it doesn't actually affect that many things. Okay, now you can rewrite the list and make sure that a 10-year-old can understand it. Next up, list the items in your methodology, right? So, your the components basically, right? List every problem, obstacle, concern, every objection that they can raise from these things. So, for example, I'm going to say, I'm going to help you send 200 DMs. And they say, okay, what about how am I going to set up the accounts? Are you going to run it for me? Am I going to get like shadow banned? This, that, or the other, right? Now, engineer solutions to these concerns. You say, yes, we're going to do it all for you. No, you're not going to get shadow banned, so on and so forth. And now explain these solutions so a little kid can understand it as well. Now, polarization. It's very simple. Who can you help and who cannot you help, right? And you have to, and what mindset is required to work with you? Because if they have the wrong mindset, you could also think what mindset is required to not work with you. because if they have the wrong mindset, right? If they think that making money is impossible, or they think that you're not the right person, right? They just even if you do somehow close them, they will become what are called nightmare clients, right? They're going to ask for refunds, chargebacks, or they're just going to keep demanding more for no good reason, right? You would, I've had those people. They suck, right? Now, what is your competition charging for the similar outcome? What are other marketing agencies charging, right? Uh, I've had people charge similar stuff to me for 1K, and some people charge 5K, some people charge 10K, right? How much is your product worth to someone? In terms of, I mean, this is basically the same, right? In terms of money, right? And how much are they willing to pay for it? These two are basically the same question. And how much is that outcome worth to someone as well, right? So this is about how much they perceive it to be. This is how much, they perceive that outcome to be, right? And if you 3x or 10x your price, what would you need to add to justify it? So instead of charging 1K, if you charge 10K, how could you improve it to make it better and make it worth it? All these questions may seem excessive, but all of them are crucial, okay? I actually subtracted them from a big list of questions because there were too many, and I only kept the important ones. Now, packaging the offer, okay? You simply need to explain it in a way that appeals to your ICP. Now, document I got this from, it's actually a little different, and I'll tell you in a second why that is, okay? Da 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 da. So, now you might have seen that I changed the word guarantee to help. And the reason I do that is because nowadays guarantees are not nearly as strong as what they used to be. Okay? Guarantees are simply not as powerful anymore. And if you're a business doing like 100K a month and you have a refund rate of like 2%, go ahead, bro, have a guarantee. But the thing is, McDonald's doesn't guarantee that your burger's gonna taste good, right? If you don't like it, if you don't get sick from it, but you don't like it, right? They're not gonna refund it simply because you don't like it. It's just a dumb reason, okay? And for the same reason, okay, it would be stupid if you said, if your client invested 5K, you promise you're gonna earn them 30K, and they earn 20K from an investment of 5K, but they still ask for a refund. It's just ridiculous because the terms are so against you. The situation is so rigged against you that it just sucks basically. Okay, and in terms of things like refunds, like, unless you did something really bad, you shouldn't be issuing refunds, right? Because the problem with guarantees is that it opens way too much space for chargebacks, refunds, and all these things. Okay, and I'm talking about legal disputes even in some really high ticket cases. So you don't want to do that, okay? What you want to do is make sure your clients trust you enough that even if you might not deliver, which is the case because it's not guaranteed that you can deliver, they could get hit by a car tomorrow, right? You make sure that, you make sure that they succeed as much, like you do everything in your power to make them succeed, but it's not guaranteed, right? And pretending to guarantee is just gonna put refunds in. And if your refund rates are like over 5 to 10%, there's a car behind me, 5 to 10%, you're gonna be having a lot of trouble in your business. Now, now that we've gone through all these, side systems, let's go through the main one, right? So let's start with traffic, right? The traffic are inbound and outbound systems, Instagram, YouTube ecosystems, top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel content, cold outbounds, ad systems if they apply. I'll talk more about it, okay? Since making this, I've actually learned quite a few more things, so I'll talk about it as well. So appointments are just nurturing systems, appointment booking scripts, VSL, sales assets, so on and so forth. Conversions are just sales systems, closing systems, post-appointment booking SOPs, which I'll talk about as well. And delivery is just delivery SOPs, make sure they have one-to-one access, done for you, done with you, implementing the systems into your client's business. Now, here's kind of the fun part, because here's where I start to run through all of my systems, okay? Now, I want to talk about the Instagram funnel first, because the thing is, I made this document, but Instagram is a very tough thing to use, okay? There are a lot of things I actually did not write for this. Now, these are the 3 ways to get leads: the following of people, suggested accounts, and scraped lists, okay? That's really the only 3 ways. Now, in DMs, you could have an automated opener, with automations, and you could use the setter to do it manually, right? And you initiate a conversation from there. Conversions should be done with setters, right? You initiate a conversation, you drop some free value, and you pitch the call, not the product. You pitch the call. Okay. Now, here's a few things I didn't include in this, and is that in per account, right? And when you use Instagram to do outbound DMs, only use aged accounts. Don't use new accounts, because they're gonna go through to hidden inboxes, right? And your metrics are gonna hit the floor and die, basically, right? And do not send more than probably 25 messages a day. Other people say 50, but all of them end up in hidden inboxes, and that they have like 0.5% booking rate, which is just fatally shit, basically. Okay. If you run Instagram campaigns, right, DM campaigns, make sure you have setters, right, and make sure you use something called hide my account so you don't get IP banned. And I know it is a very big pain in the ass to run, but sometimes you need to run 10, 15, 20 accounts. If you can take that, go ahead. But if you don't want to take that, then don't use this, to be honest, because in the last few weeks, to be honest, I've realized how shit it is. And ironically, I still made this. But just a disclaimer, okay? Now, let's go to something that I trust a lot more, which is Instagram Organic. Now, this is something that is actually really similar to Twitter Organic as well, because in Twitter it is like just about the same, right? So in Instagram there's stories, there's reels, there's posts. In Twitter there's posts, and that's it. Okay, so Twitter Organic is literally just exactly this. Take away these 2. Okay, now it goes to your DMs, right? You could manually open them up, have an opening message, or you could have a machine open the message. Then you basically have a conversation like a human being, talk about goals, their bottlenecks, and again, pitch the call, not the product. Okay? And you might say, oh, what about, Twitter DMs? I've been recommended by a lot of people to not use them because they're shit. But I'll tell you the basics of how it works, okay? In Twitter DMs, you could use followings, scraped lists. There's not suggested accounts, but you could use followers, followings, scraped lists, which are just those 2, right? You could use groups, I'm pretty sure. And for Twitter, the conversion rates are so low, I wouldn't be using a setup. I would use automations, and then go from there, from the replies, right? So imagine this didn't exist, right? You go to openers and you initiate the conversation. Free value, pitch the call. The reason I tell you to use automations is because it can send thousands of DMs. And if you can't send thousands, you will get smashed, because that's how bad the metrics are. Now that we've talked about inbound and outbound systems, right? I want to go through YouTube Organic, right? YouTube Organic looks pretty simple, to be honest, and it is, because YouTube long form, right? Long form videos like this one, it goes to a VSL, or it doesn't actually have to go to a VSL because it could actually go directly to a school community. Okay? Or alternatively, I didn't tell you, I actually didn't, tell you guys about this. It could go directly to your appointment link as well, right? And from here, you could actually, I know, it's like I'm making this stuff up as well. This could go directly to a sales call, right? Very simple. But this is basically the way it could go. YouTube long form, VSLs, appointment links, sales call. Now, YouTube short form, I'll talk about that in a second, right? In fact, actually, let's go back here, right? On YouTube short form, imagine these two didn't exist and it was just shorts, right? And instead of going to DMs, there will be a CTA, as I said here, right? CTA that would go directly into a VSL, an appointment link, but most likely it would actually go to a free community, right? So like a free to paid funnel, basically. Okay. Next up. Now, you might realize, okay, what do they do once they book a call? You want to maximize something called show rate, right? Obviously. And this is a system that I've gotten from Charlie Morgan that has basically an 80% plus show rate. These two are pretty ambiguous. I said 1 to 2 days, but it actually could be, 2 days, 1 day, because different businesses use different reminder timings. It doesn't actually matter too much, but if they book a call, make sure they are redirected to a thank you page, and you have to make sure that I actually don't know why I asked you. Oh no, I did include it. The thank you page has to include a video confirming the booking on Google Calendar, because they get an email that says invitation from unknown sender if they've never booked with you before, and if they don't click accept, it's actually not added to their Google Calendar, and you don't want that, right? Because the show rate would go down by like 20 to 30%. If they don't confirm, don't even call with them, okay? Because the video should already tell them. And don't forget to remind them on both email and SMS, all right? And you can do that with basically a Calendly paid plan. It's really easy. Now, okay, you might say, sure. Now that they've, maybe they don't, go directly for a paid product, what happens if they join my free school community, right? This is also a good question. Is a community upsell strategy, right? Prospect joins a free school, and the first thing they do is obviously interact with the community, right? Because that's what it is. It's a community. They attend group calls, looks into the classroom content, right? And they buy upsells. I'll give you a really good example. Imperium Academy, right? For example, this is Charlie Morgan's school, right? So this is his, oh, not this document. This is his free school, right? You would get involved in the community first, so you have all these posts. Look at this stuff. Loads of posts, right? 7,000 posts, in fact, right? Loads of posts, a lot of people, a lot of friends that you can see here, right? Then they would attend group calls. Now, Charlie Morgan doesn't really do it, but what he does is recordings on, let me find it. He makes live recordings, live streams basically, on YouTube. Now, I actually can't find it here, which is a little weird, but he makes live streams on YouTube. It's probably in bonuses, right? Yeah, so you can see his free live stream recordings. If you go to his live stream recording, he will answer your questions personally, which is really nice, right? Next up is exploring the classroom content. So you probably massive class, right? Loads of free value, very nice. And then it says attend upsell call. So with certain businesses, with most businesses like ours, because we don't do $10 million a year, the prospect would come to us, have a call with us to have an upsell, maybe into like a mid-ticket or high-ticket program, right? In Charlie's case, I'm pretty sure they just directly buy it, right? Just buy the upsell, right? But for us, most people probably talk to us. Okay, now that that is covered, let's talk about a few other things because I'm not done yet, right? Let's firstly talk about content to community funnel. Yeah, this is actually something I mentioned, but not really. Stories, reels, and posts. I'm talking specifically about Instagram, but this also applies for YouTube Shorts, Twitter posts, YouTube long form. It could go to school community link, and it goes to your school community, right? Content to free community funnel, by the way. Some people have done it with, low ticket paid communities, but not gonna lie, like low ticket's kind of fucking dead nowadays. I'll be real with you. So let's see what we've covered. All right. Next up are the content types. Now, you might already know what top, middle, and bottom of funnel are, but for anyone who doesn't, the goal's simple. Okay, there's three types: top, middle, and bottom of funnel. Top is to grab attention, the middle is to nurture, and the bottom is to convert. So the top would be get their attention, get people who haven't seen your content before to see it, basically, right? This would mean lifestyle content, short form content, and flashy forms of content. Now, a really good example of this is this guy called Moritz. Oh my god, I can't type his name. Moritz, okay? This guy, all he does is aura farm, okay? It sounds really funny, but I'll give you an example, alright? So, yeah, you guys can see this. So, he spent, 168k in Egypt, pro boxing fights. All of this is like flashy lifestyle type of content, right? Look at this shit, right? This is all top of funnel content, right? Middle of funnel is value. So a good example would be my friend Javen, right? All he does is, or most of what he does is dropping value. How I scaled an info offer, how I made my clients $2 million. This is top of funnel, so this is like more of like a live, like a stream type of thing. How to get high ticket clients with IG social funnel, right? Middle of funnel, right? And the bottom of funnel would be things like success cases, testimonials, and client wins. So, this would not be bottom of funnel, but let's see. Yeah, for example, how Jamil scaled from 2K to 27K. That would be an example. That's a client success case. His success with his client Ben Holt would be another example, right? Client wins, testimonials, client successes, basically. Now, now that we know the content types, we're kind of going all over the place, I guess, but we're going to go through automations, right? Earlier in this video, I talked about decreasing operational drag, right? Now all these funnels, right? All these funnels, it could be a little overwhelming, and there are things that can make it simpler. The most famous one is Go High Level. Now, I don't have an affiliate link. I'm not going to give an affiliate link because, I don't need it. Zapier for workflows, make.com, also for workflows. But again, all of that could be inside of, all of that could be inside of Go High Level. Xreacher, if you want to use cold DMs on Twitter. There's a thing called cold DMs if you want to do it on Instagram. Vidio or Opus Clip for clipping. There was actually another one which I unfortunately forgot about. So yeah, it's unfortunate. But all these things would help you acquire clients, right? And you could also get setters, right? Employees. And for most online businesses, the best places to hire them is school, Facebook, Upwork, or you could also add LinkedIn as well. All right, in certain cases, use LinkedIn. Now, what do you have to do to succeed, right? What do you have to do to stand out from the rest of the people? And in terms of traffic, if you make 5 short forms a day, 1 long form a day, and reach out to 300 people a day if you're doing outbound. Yes, 300. I'm fucking serious. Okay, that would put you above the competition. Another thing you can do is, you would probably have to run at least. Give me a sec. It's irritating because. Oh wait, hold up. If you're running ads, a thing you can do is to run at least probably $30 plus per day on ads if you're doing ads. I don't know too much about it, so I decided not to talk too much about it. But people say, at least they say at least 1K a month on ads if you're doing it. Otherwise, what's the point? What you want to have in give me a sec. It's an alarm. So, what you want to have in terms of KPIs in your appointments is 2% booking rate or more on your outbounds, 5% of booking rates on your inbounds, and on your content, try to maximize average view rate, okay? AVR, so how long they watch your video. Now you might say, what about click-through rate? You don't necessarily want click-through rate because having a viral channel doesn't mean having a good channel. And conversions, at least $500 cash collected per sale, preferably well over 1K, to be honest with you. Okay, I would prefer much more, but at the very bottom, $500. And this could change depending on how much your backend costs, right? Go high levels like 99 a month. The higher plan is like 349 a month. So you don't want to run out of money, right? So, at least 500, but go aim for higher. Go aim for more. Now, the final thing, after we've covered all this, is after you get a client, okay? What do you want to do? And it's easy, right? After you close a client, right? First go to T's and C's, confirm their payment, and once they paid, they're officially a client. This is where you do the onboarding call. The reason you do this is to diagnose their problems, because every business is different, and anyone selling you a course, giving you one solution for every type of business, okay, they're not going to help you be rich. Okay, it's not going to work out. You have to find out what specifically holds them back so you can create your personalized solution, okay? And implement the solution to them, right? So, create the solution, tell them about it, and implement it with them or for them step by step, right? And make sure that they have daily access to you, they can talk to you whenever they want, because as I said earlier, you want to sell proximity, okay? Because nowadays, instead of selling information, everyone sells courses. Information isn't that useful. I've been given courses worth tens of thousands of dollars, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars, okay? And there are times where I just haven't touched it for months because information is not nearly as valuable as having a personal contact with someone. I say that because I have both information and I have networks, and I know which one is better, right? And you can ask that to anybody, and they would all say the same, right? So proximity is extremely important because in the future, if you want to continue to succeed, you have to sell proximity, okay? You charge people for having personal contacts with you. I have WhatsApps of people doing over 40, 50K a month. And that's because I built the network, but, it shouldn't be, easy. You should be hard to reach out to, easy to find, but hard to connect with. Okay, and that's the power of selling with proximity because, they can have all the information at once, but most people won't apply it, and the ones that do are the ones that buy your stuff. All right, and troubleshooting. If they have a problem, solve it basically, and that's another thing with proximity, right? If they have, a problem that is specific to them, then you can craft a solution that is specific to them. So now that we've covered literally everything here, um, that is the client acquisition masterclass for you guys, right? You know, I hope you guys found this valuable. I tried to deliver as much as I can for my prospects, right? And yeah, if you guys got questions, you can ask it in the comments, or in the description. You could also, I think you could book a call with me. I'm pretty sure my link's on there, my call link. My Instagram is on there. My Twitter, but I'm mostly focused on Instagram. So reach out to me on Instagram. Um, maybe like comment on some of my videos, drop a follow. I message everyone who follows me, and I'll like every comment as well. To be honest, so yeah, I hope it helped out, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye bye.